What will be really annoying is someone clicks record while the other person I'm meant to be talking to was out of the frame, and then watch as they walk awkwardly back into it. Just wanted to get you water. So, my name's Dave. I am a coach, a mentor, and a speaker. And if I had to say what I did in a simple way, it would be I have conversations with amazing people and great things happen, which is probably the easiest way I can describe what I do. And I'm with my very good friend Linda, who is a coach, a trainer, a speaker, a Tony Robbins trainer. Oh, she does so many things, so many things. Hello.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing? You all
So
right?
good to be here. I'm doing great, thank you.
It's not like we've planned this at all, or maybe done other recordings beforehand.
Well, do you know, and we didn't. And if you're listening, actually, we just got on a call to chat, and then we kept like seeking into conversations where we thought this might be useful, and it fits in with the work that both of us do. So
Yeah.
maybe let's pause our conversation and actually record it to
Or,
share.
or we should just record the whole lot of swearing and all, but yeah, maybe that would be a good idea. Right, I'm going to tell you a story. I was taking my youngest to school this morning, and he woke up this morning beautifully. We did breakfast together. It was absolutely lovely. Life seemed good. He hadn't had the best night's sleep, but then, I think anything less than about 30 hours for a child is not a good night's sleep. I leave the car on the way, and I said, "So, are you looking forward to your day?" And he went, "No." What do you mean, no? And we talked through a little bit. It turned out there were a couple of things going on in the day which he wasn't looking forward to, and then it turned out that a couple of his friends were basically, he said, were being mean to him, and we went down this whole route of everything which was wrong in the world. And he's 11, so there I was going, okay, how can I turn this round? Because and this is my ego speaking, I don't want him to have a bad day. I don't want him to feel bad. And so I was trying to help him out a little bit, really coming from a place of, right, it's not about me, it's about his experience and helping him to see things. And I know that at 11 everything I say is going to be wrong, because that's how parenting and childhood
Wait till
relationships
he
work.
gets to 14.
Oh my goodness me. Yes. And what was it was a great phrase I heard the other day. It was a story someone was telling where I think a 13-year-old has said, oh no, a 20-year-old has said it was amazing. He said, when I was 13, I didn't realize, I was so shocked by how stupid my parents were. And he said, by the time I was 20, I was really shocked by how much they'd improved. And it's like, okay, there you go. So parenting is fun. But I found myself really trying to work with him about saying, okay, everything you're looking at through this lens of kind of negativity and bad. And, is there another way you could look at this? And I said to him, do you know what happens when you look for unhappiness? And he was like, no. And I said, what you find when you look for unhappiness, I said, is you find unhappiness. So if you want to be unhappy, then, you've got the perfect recipe to create unhappiness. I said, but if you want to be happy, there's a different way to do it. And he may well have gone into school this morning pissed off at his dad because he was trying to coach him in the car on the school run. And fine, that we'll have that conversation when we have that conversation. But it was for me, it was a really good reminder of that as human beings we have this negativity bias.
Yeah.
We look. Well, I know it's hardwired. From an evolutionary perspective, we're looking out for danger and fear, and when people are going to hurt us and shaft us and do all kinds of nasty things. So it's much harder to find the gift in a given situation. And I was really interested in your thoughts around that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's just always two ways we can look at things, and it's the window in which we view it. So 100% is what we focus on is what we get, because that's just what you're paying attention to. And our brain, of course, only has the capacity to pay attention to a certain amount of things at any one time. So we choose what we want to pay attention to. Now I think we lie to ourselves in saying it's not a choice, but ultimately, and you and I have talked about this before,
Yes.
Dave, about having this, this pause that you can, and I loved how you described it way back then about, you can stretch out this pause and make a decision of what will I focus on instead. But it's easier sometimes to be like, oh, I don't have a choice in this. Like I can't change it. It's all that negativity, and then we spiral into that negativity. And I think that that one of the things I do is I work with people in recovery from addiction, and we talk a lot about that moment of choice, about deciding to take responsibility for their lives. And part of that responsibility is being able to say is, I choose how I feel, and I'm going to take responsibility for everything. and it feels kind of scary because they're like, oh my gosh, like I have to blame myself. There's no one else to blame in this. I have to take responsibility with whatever my life looks like. But it's so incredibly empowering because when you create something and say, I created this, no matter what it looks like, then you can create something else different. Whereas if you actually give all the responsibility to other people for how you feel, then how can you change that? Because you can't control those other people. So I think absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that's not, it's simple but not necessarily easy, and it takes practice. And I know one things that you do, Dave, of course, is a lot of mindfulness and gratitude practice, and that is one of the habits. We talk a lot about habits as well and implementing positive habits, it's a habit of what positive thinking, optimism. It's a behaviour. It's what am I choosing to focus on today, and I can choose to focus on the fact that the sky is grey today, and yesterday it was blue.
But then, from a mindfulness perspective, the sky's always blue. It just might be blue above the clouds, which you can't see. It is very interesting, and someone watching this may well be going, no, I can't do any of this. Everything is negative, and that's fine, and that's your perspective, and please you carry that with you, own that, and I've got no issues with that at all. But I find that asking those questions, what's the gift in a given situation, is really powerful, and I've been listening to a fair amount of Byron Katie's work recently, and it took me a while to get to her work because I kind of looked at it a bit like Brené Brown's work. I looked at it originally and went, no, I'm a tattooed skinhead. Why would I want to listen to that? It's not hard enough. And then when I got into it, realised just how powerful it is. And there's a line which Byron Katie uses in her audiobook of Loving What Is, which is, are you going to argue with reality? And I love that, and for me, sitting with the subject of a negativity bias or thinking positively, it's that idea of, well, something's really bad, it should be better, it should be this, it shouldn't have happened, people should do this, but I should think this, and it's like, well, you end up shooting yourself after a while, and it's not good. So why don't you look at it and go, okay, this is what this thing is, and from that place, what do I want to feel?
Yes, or start from how do I want to feel and say, I feel sad, lonely, upset, depressed, whatever it is. Well, that I know what it is, and this is it's almost like it's the goal setting piece of emotions. It's how do I want to feel, and maybe shrieking with joy is too much of a step too far. But it's like, well, maybe I just want to feel, maybe I want to feel happy. Maybe I just want to feel fine if I feel really bad. So now that I know where I want to go, well, let me think about, well, what will help me get there? Because actually, me wanting to feel happy will take a different toolbox and mindset and attention than if I want to feel serene or peaceful. So it gives me that kind of toolbox of stuff of, like, if I want to feel happy, then what do I do? Well, I might put on some great music. I might call a friend. I might dance. I might buy myself something on eBay. But if I want to feel peaceful, then let me go and meditate. Let me go and walk in nature or something like that. So I get this kind of menu of stuff that will help me feel the things that I want to feel. And of course, the other thing is, and this is about being truly honest with ourselves, is, and it's a danger as well, the more days that we spend feeling negative and focusing on negative things, the more thing we're going to, because then that becomes the familiar. It's like people are natural optimists, and we can learn optimism. It's like that's a natural state, so that's what's comfortable. But when we're always in a negative state, then that becomes what's comfortable. So we'll ignore the good stuff because, like, whoa, that doesn't fit in with who I am and how I am and my life. So I'm always going to keep on focusing on the grey sky or the people that were mean or all of that other stuff. I think it's hugely important for living our lives.
Yeah, 100%. And that idea, I just reminded of a phrase. I think it's Henry Ford. I think it might be Henry Ford. It could be wrong. Somebody who's watching this will turn around and give me slating if it isn't, and that's cool. Was whether you think you're right or you're wrong, whether you think you can, or whether you think you can do it or whether you think you can't, you're right. Yeah. Something along those lines, anyway. And it comes down to belief and choice. Yeah. And I'll be honest, as a dad, as a parent, when your kids turn around and they're like, I can't do this, you kind of like, well, I know you can because I've got the experience to do it. But it breaks your heart to see people in that place. But I think for me, what is even more heartbreaking is when you see adults doing it, where they've had that learned behaviour for so long, they've had that mindset for so long, and actually being able to flip it to something else is hard. And I'm not saying it's easy to do it anyway, but it becomes an even bigger challenge the older you get. And what you search for, you invariably find. So if you're looking for unhappiness, you'll find it. If you want to look for happiness, you'll find it. If you want to look for humour, you'll find humour. And trust me, I can find humour in pretty much most things.
That's true.
It's a whole other conversation.
It's being proactive, because I think the other thing is, and I've been talking about this quite a lot recently, is if we want to get physically fit, then we know what we have to do. Sadly, it wasn't going to happen sitting on the sofa. So I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, then I know I've got to go to the gym, I know I've got to exercise, I know I've got to eat well, all of that stuff. It's a given. But in order to be emotionally fit, we kind of don't have that same mindset of thinking, I actually have to be active to ensure I'm emotionally well and emotionally fit. It isn't necessarily going to just happen, particularly in the world the way it is now. So I have to have habits and behaviours and actions that will help my emotional well-being. And that might be around humour. I know that last year, and I'm not alone in this, part of one of the things that helped me get through lockdown was Janie Godley. And if you don't happen to know her, she's a Glaswegian comedian that takes a lot of online abuse and makes just these silly, funny videos that are really, really short. And I would be having a rubbish day and I'd just put one on.
She do the
Nicola
one where
Sturgeon.
oh god, that was you shared some of those with me, and I had to be very, very careful that I didn't watch them before I needed to go for a wee.
Well, it was just that. And Dave and I talk about habits quite a long, and happiness is habits as well. Feeling good is habits. So it's like, what is in my day that helps me regularly? Because of course that big change happens through small, consistent things that I do over time. Not, I don't get fit because I went to the gym one day for 10 hours. I've got to go like 3 times a week, 5 times a week. Dave, of course, goes every day. I'm very. I actually need to pay more attention to him. But we know it's like, oh, I'm not fit, and then go to the gym. It's like, well, I feel like crap all the time. Oh, because I'm not doing anything to help me be emotionally well. And I think, I run a group called Pain into Power, and one of the kind of themes of that is because we've all experienced pain in our lives, suffering, whatever we want to call it, physical, emotional, and often kind of spiritual, which is like, oh my gosh, what does it all mean? And what we tend to do in pain is isolate. Whereas the most important thing to do is reach out and connect. Because we all have it, we all understand it. It's a universal truth that we all, as human beings, have experienced some level of pain. So that part about, feeling well, where we start looping back to where we started this about, happiness and what we focus on, is also about that connection with other human beings.
100% connection is massively important. So, if there's any of the conversation we've had, which was just off the cuff and just kind of like our normal conversations on a day-to-day basis, which shows how exciting our lives are, there's any of that which kind of resonates, and maybe what you're thinking is, you know what? I really struggle with seeing anything other than the real negative aspects of whatever's going on around me. And sometimes having a conversation with somebody where they can actually almost get you to step out of that and show you things from a different perspective can help you to see where there may be some positivity or happiness or a different approach to things. And if you feel that one of us can help you with that, then reach out to us. Linda, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on social media and I'm Linda Thompson with I used to say like the holidays with no P, but nobody goes on holiday anymore.
Bit like it says on the name on Zoom here. It's actually spelled correctly on there.
Yeah. And even when I write it down, sometimes people put a P in there. So it's habit, funnily enough. So I think the best place at the moment is Facebook, especially because my Pain into Power Facebook group is there. So you just like come on and say hi. If there's a button there, you can join my group, or just like send me some sort of message. and be happy to have a conversation about any of these themes. As Dave says, it's, you know, it's like with anything, we sometimes can't see it for ourselves. We're too caught up in the middle of it. So having someone go on that journey, holding your hand with you, but even just like, you know, touch base, and either one of us would be happy to have a conversation about what's going on for you.
Absolutely. And you can find me, my website, www.davethecoach.co.uk, not .com. Somebody else owns that. Or they did try to sell it to me once, but that's a whole other story. I am on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, those kind of things. And wherever you find this posted, I'm sure there's a DM function to come and find me as well. But if we can help, give us a shout. Absolutely. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Dave.
Got to awkwardly find the button now. It's around here somewhere. There it is.